So you need to download my slideshow.zip. And you are going to be extracting that into your lesson 12 folder. So you'll probably want to show this in the folder. And then once it's done downloading, you will double click, extract all. Whoop, where did that go? And you want this to go into your lesson 12 folder. So you're going to have to click on browse, navigate to your CIT 180, open up lesson 12, select that folder, and then click on extract. And I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. But once you do that, you are going to see this My Slideshow folder inside lesson 12. And inside that, there is a My Slideshow webpage, and there's also several pictures that are part of the slideshow. Now, if you open up the My Slideshow webpage in VS Code for editing, and you also open it up in a browser, it's going to look something like this. And at this point, the links to these places work, but these buttons do not work. What they're supposed to do is cycle through the slides. And that is the code that you need to add. Okay. This does have a grid view format. Okay, so it was set up like that. So it could be viewed on a mobile app, desktop, tablet, you know, what have you. So in VS Code, your first task is going to be to enter this scripting section. And I'm going to go through and explain what all of this does so you understand what it is that you're entering. So the very first thing that you're going to do is create an image array. So you're creating an image variable. You're setting that equal to new array. So that is creating an image array. And then each picture that you want to put into this image array has to be in double quotes, and it has to be separated by a comma. And you'll notice that we're telling it to look in the media folder for the picture. So you're going to have to put each one of those in here separately. And again, you've got double quotes around them, and then you've got commas in between. JavaScript statements always end in semicolons, so make sure you put the semicolon at the end. Okay, so that's your first variable. Your second variable is called image num. This variable is set to 0, and this is going to keep track of which picture you are displaying. And when you're dealing with an array, the very first item has a value, a subscript value of 0. So when we set image num to 0, it's basically going to be referencing this first picture. When image num gets increased to 1, it's going to reference this picture. If it was 2, it would be referencing this picture. So the way that this array handles the objects in it is the first one has a subscript value of 0. Then we have a value of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 is the top value in this particular array. And that brings us to our next variable, image length. So what this does is it takes the image array, it calls a length method, okay, because image is an object here. Image is calling a length method to figure out how many items we have in this array. Because in JavaScript, arrays are dynamic, okay? They shrink and expand. So how many do we have here? And it doesn't start counting at 0. It starts counting at 1, so it's going to retrieve a 6. okay? Because when we process arrays, we start at 0, we're subtracting 1. So the image length was 6, we subtract 1, and we store a 5. Because in this particular array, 5 is the top value. Okay, then we get into this little function called change image. And this is where the actual slideshow is happening. So we have a function, change image. It's getting a number from the event handler. And if we come down and we take a look at the event handler, okay, so we've got on click, it's calling change image here, and it's also calling change image down here. And you'll notice it's sending a -1 here and a +1 here. So this number is either going to be a -1 or a +1. Okay, so we're getting a number from the event handler, and then we're taking that number and we're adding it to image num. So image num starts at 0, it's tracking where we're at, and we're either going to add 1 to it or subtract 1 from it, right? Because if image num was, let's say, 2, and we pass a -1, well, 2 plus -1 is the same as 2 minus 1. So it's going to go down to number 1. So it'd be referring to this. If number is a +1 and we start on 2, then we take 2 plus 1 and it becomes 3. So from your current location, basically you're either going to go up 1 or down 1. Okay? And that is what this statement does. Now, because we have ends to this array, right? We have this, which is the top end, and we have this one down here, which is the bottom end. We do need to see if the image number is referring, to the end, or actually if it's past the end. That is a problem. Okay, so the next statement, the next two if statements are checking to make sure that the number is in the correct range. So we're saying if the image number is greater than the length, meaning the image number is greater than 5. That's a problem. So if it's greater than 5, if this is where they were at and they clicked next, that would make it greater than 5. So what we want is for them to cycle back to the beginning. We want them to look at this one. So we set the image number to 0. So if the image number is greater than 5, we set it back to 0. If the image number is less than 0, well, how would that happen? Well, if they were here and they click on previous, then it would be less than 0. And we don't have anything over here less than 0. So if that happens, what we want is we want for them to come up here and see this one. So if the image number is less than 0, we just send it the image number to the length, which is 5. That would take it here. So let's play computer a little bit here so you can understand what it's doing. So let's say our current image is the Bengal, and they click the next button. So the current number then would be 0, 1, 2. So we're at number 2, and they click next. Okay, so right now image number is a 2. They click next, so it passes a 1. So we add a 1 to the 2, and we get the number 3. Is 3 greater than 5? No. Is 3 less than 0? No. Okay, so 3 is a valid number. It would come down here, and basically it's going to subscript in to our image array at position 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's looking at the snow monkey. It's going to take that snow monkey image, and it is going to display it at the My Slide ID. And the My Slide ID just happens to be down here, okay, in the image tag. So it's going to take snow monkeys, stick it right in the image tag. It's going to put it in place of Osti. or whatever was there before. Okay, so at that point it would be done and the control would return to the main program. Now let's go through this again. Let's pretend we're looking at the baboon and they click on next. Okay, so we're at number 5 and they click on next. So we're at number 5, they click on next, so we add a 1 to the 5, giving us a 6. So is a 6 greater than a 5? Yes, it is. Now image number is set to 0. Okay, image number is a 0. Is 0 less than 0? No, it's not. So then we come down here. We're retrieving the subscript 0, which is ASCII, and we're going to put that in the image tag. Okay, so let's say we're now at ASCII, and they click on previous. So we're at 0, they click on previous. We're at 0, they click on previous, so we try to subtract 1, so now we're at -1. Is -1 greater than 5? No, it's not. Is -1 less than 0? Yes, it is. Okay, so we put the number 5 into image number. So it's going to come down here and subscript into our array at position 5, which is the baboon. And the baboon now gets displayed down here in the image tag. Okay, if they click previous again, well, we're at number 5. So 5 minus 1 is 4. Is 4 greater than 5? No. Is 4 less than 0? No. So it's going to take the image at position 4, which is the poker playing bear, and it's going to put that into the image tag. Okay, and again, it's identifying the image tag based on the ID. That's how it knows what source to change. Okay, and that's basically how this little script is working. So you're going to key in the script, and then you have to come down to the buttons, and you do need to add the on-click event handlers. Okay, and so for previous, you're calling change image and sending it a -1. And then for next, you're calling change image and you're sending it a +1. And again, that is how it is cycling through the array. So once you've got all this coded, you want to make sure you save your changes. And then, assuming no typos, you should be able to cycle through this. Now, what happens if you make a typo in the array? Well, typically what happens if you misspell something in the array is it just doesn't show that one image. So this is pretty easy one to figure out. So I'm purposefully misspelled Bengal. Let's reload this. Okay, so that would normally be where the Bengal would go. So obviously I got a problem here. So I don't think that'll be too tough to figure out. Some other errors are a little trickier, especially, let me see. I'm going to take a double quote out here and see what happens. Well, immediately I can kind of see there's an issue, okay? So look for these visual clues here. But, you know, if I was tired and I happened to miss that, you'll see like you've got all your code in and you click on next and previous and it does nothing. That is a JavaScript error. Okay, so then you're going to want to press F12. And usually I go into the console because that actually does tell you, you know, what the error is. It says unterminated string. There's a problem with my string. And then if I come over here, and this is actually more helpful, it actually tells me the line and the character location the problem occurred at. So if I click on that, okay, then I can actually get a clue, line 134, Okay, and I can see right here, I don't have my double quote. So it'll actually narrow down the line for you. So if I go back in and I put my double quote back in there and I save it, I can reload this page and close out of my debugger here, and then it should work. And sometimes you can have multiple errors and you're just going to have to, I would always start with the top error first, because sometimes an error at the top can create errors below. So if you've got multiple errors, always fix the top one first, save your changes, and then come out and reload your page, because fixing that top error may fix additional errors. And obviously, if you get stuck, make sure your page is online and email me, because I'm pretty good at figuring out the errors.